this week of December 9th through the 13th, the transit weather, we have the sun in gate 26 and the earth in gate 45.
I got a lot to say about these two gates. I say that every time.
Well, they're really interesting. So continuing on our walk around the mandala wheel, the sun in 26, which is the egoist, right? So that is a will center gate. And then its polar pair is the earth in gate 45, which is gathering. And that is a throat gate.
So when you put these two gates together, and we'll talk about it in a moment as they make up the rulership, the crosser rulership. But it's the capacity. 26 lends itself to 45, and 45 literally speaks to honor the 26. And if anything is out of alignment with that, the being is out of alignment. And we'll get to be talking about that.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I've never considered these two in any capacity together, but even just kind of seeing it of like, and just a really simple thing is like gate 26 is like integrity, right? Because that can be the selling of like the tribal memory, right? And the interaction of tribal memory and how to use tribal memory, right? So like it can be like the used car salesman. And so it's interesting that integrity of the tribe, and then 45 is like the monarch, it's the king that is speaking the resources of the tribe and sharing these resources and the will of the tribe. So it's interesting that, you know, they're linked up and they're polar pairs in this capacity.
And there's an interesting aspect to this polarity as well as the 26. I know it's not in an individual circuitry, but it very much, I was going to say it empowers the 45. The 26 empowers it, but really I guess it supports it, and that's its way of empowering it. And the thing is, it supports it or not. The 26 can be its own ego gate in support of the 45 or in direct contrast to it. The 26 more can stand alone, even though the 45 is in the throat. And you would think that it's in a manifesting channel. It's the archetype of a manifestor if it's the whole channel. And yet it must, in a way, surrender to the 26. It's not quite the other way around. Except the 26's life cannot be whole without the recognition and the basic empowerment and support of the 45. But the 26 can egoistically think it can and go off and live a whole life that way if it sort of falls a little off track. You know, it can do that. It's got that willpower to do so. 45 is want of willpower. 26 is the willpower.
Right. Great introduction. So the sun in gate 26, this is the taming power of the great. It's the egoist. It is the maximization of the power of memory applied to the nurturing of continuity. It's an ego gate, and it is tribal, which is, you think, support, right? That's our keynote for tribal circuitry. It's about supporting the tribe, and it's part of the ego circuit, and it links up with gate 44, which is alertness, right? That's that tribal memory that it's referencing. And the 4426 is the channel of surrender. So gate 26 is the gate of memory, remembering patterns for living that have successfully provided for our material needs, right? It's instinctually alert for correct, spontaneous interaction that can move a potential to the level of a possibility. This is the natural salesperson who is actually expected to exaggerate. It's the innate ability to manipulate memory coupled with the energy of the ego, and it is designed to withstand rejection.
Oh, does it ever withstand rejection? And this whole potential to level up into a possibility. Gate 26, as it rolls up its sleeves and does manipulate memory ever so slightly. And you can look at this in a very practical way. If someone says, let's go to the beach, and you say, well, maybe, the 26 will come along and say, dude, it's a beautiful day, and we'll be there a little bit quicker because I heard traffic is light. The same exact conversation. One just said the facts. One basically manipulated more, told more of a story around those facts to color it and to get the support of the other coming and to support the other and wanting to come to keep the tribe together. Gate 26 loves to keep the tribe together. It's just that it will squander its life away if it does not surrender to the 45, if it has it in its chart. And as a polarity, it still must surrender to the other, to the 45 as its polarity, and to the 44, the alertness. Gate 26 all by itself is a little bit like how I refer to generators. We're just a simple, dumb generator. We wait to respond. We're not all finessed and sophisticated in our strategy and authority in that way, like projectors are, for instance, or even any of the other types. As in comparison, Gate 26 will suffer the same fate. It will flounder and wonder why its life is not fulfilling if it does not have some form of surrender to basically the king on top.
Fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And now here we have the Earth in Gate 45, which is gathering together, and it's the gate of the gatherer. It's the natural and generally beneficial attraction of like forces. This is a throat gate, and it's tribal. So tribal is about supporting the tribe, and it's also part of the ego circuit, and it links up with Gate 21, which is biting through, and the 4521 make up the channel of money. This is the gate of the king or the queen. It's the monarch. And it's the single voice of the tribe that says, I have. And it's deeply possessive gate of manifestation and action. And the gate of the gatherer is here to protect the tribe's material resources. It's an ability to gather people together to manifest the tribe's needs, expand the community, and bring harmony to those around you.
It's really special the way 45 it does become in charge, and the rest of the people speak through the will of 45, speak their will through 45. So 45 is that expression, and its two most prized possessions, well, it's got four most prized possessions, and they are actually three, the other three ego gates, essentially. 26 is one of its most prized possessions. Obviously, I have 26. I have the right message. I transmit the right message, and boy, do I sit in my throne just right doing so for the good of the education and the continuance of my people, and so this is where 26 on the flip side can sometimes in a tricky way realize that it's got this sort of power and use it for manipulative purposes. You got to watch out for that. If you see it in yourself, don't beat yourself up. Just recognize, oh, this is why you don't always finish fitting in the way your heart and soul would like you to commune with the other. It's because of this. So if you have this 4526, if you're born around now, and for the babies being born around now, this would be a great spot for you to mindfully go inward and just admit it yourself. It's no big deal. If you were in our human design group, you could have been the biggest whatever 26, and we'd be like, no, 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 you're growing out of it. If we saw that, and we wouldn't even care. You know what I mean? We would just get, that's what you're supposed to expect. But the 26 on the other side doesn't know it can expect that is the thing. The 45 more so because it is the articulation. And again, the 21 it's in love with the 21, yet it hates it at the same time, because when the 21's there, the 21's actually in charge. It's in control, but the 45 becomes the finessed voice of that. And then the 51, it really tolerates the 51 because it knows it needs new blood. It needs that new blood. And it may only need that warrior spirit, 2 or 3 times in a whole generation. But if it's not there, there's a problem. Right? There's just a problem. And frankly, it learns to admire it more than just a few times a generation, over and over again. But it has to admire it from a distance because it can't get too close to the unique individual mutative pulse. So that's an odd relationship, but it's still a loving relationship for sure. If the tribe does not bring in new blood now and again, the tribe itself will atrophy ultimately over time. So something new does got to come in. So that's what Gate 45 is doing.
That's interesting. And just to clarify that for our audience, because I've recently learned this as well, and I find it really fascinating. Part of what Danny was referencing right there is if you're looking at the will center, the ego gates, right? It's that little triangle to the right of the diamond, right? So it's the will center, and it has 4 gates, and 3 out of those 4 are tribal gates, right? So that's the 26, the 21, and the 40. They're all part of tribal circuitry. We're going to get to that in our videos, so stay tuned and keep watching, because we're going to get to all the circuitry videos within the next short amount of time. We'll get to that.
Yeah, we're getting there. Yeah.
We're getting there. I'm excited. But yeah, so the 21, the 26, and the 40 are tribal circuitry gates. And then the 51 is individual circuitry. So what Danny was saying was that in terms of like the 45 is that like voice of the king or the queen of the monarch, then there's an obvious relationship with the 21, the 26, and the 40 because they're tribal center.
Yep.
They're tribal gates. But with the 2551, that is the individual, that's the individual warrior that's going to go out into the unknown and it kind of gets shocked out of the tribe to find new ways to live and new experiences to bring that new energy into the tribe, right? So as much as the tribe can be a little,
sticky,
a little sticky and a little concerned about the like individual warrior, it is necessary for the longevity and the survival of the tribe to have some new energy that can find its way into the tribe. Otherwise it would just kind of get stuck in its own bubble and kind of get stagnant. So
I'm laughing about my own life. It's just so funny. Careful about letting Danny in on that. I've been dealing with that my whole life. It's so funny.
That's funny.
It's a price when you're yourself as a 45. It's the price of being a 45 as yourself. Sometimes others won't necessarily understand it. Be also extra mindful of acting out an entitlement that's not yours. It is a possessive voice, and the old way of possession was to just possess it, period. And the new way of possess it is to possess it for purpose greater than yourself. And before it was to possess it strictly for your own purposes, to the detriment of others. And this is exactly the opposite now. Still, it's possessive though, and so you got to watch out for that, I would say.
All right. So moving forward, the Incarnation Crosses for people born this week and the energy that we're all going to experience as it's moving through. First up, we have the right angle cross of rulership. And this is people with social charm able to market themselves as a leader, combining selective memory and a personal touch, handshaking, baby holding, with the promise of educating everyone toward a better tomorrow. It's today's politicians. And then we move to the juxtaposition cross of the trickster, which is people with a natural gift for marketing to the inexperienced who promote the offbeat and unusual. And then we will move on into the left angle cross of confrontation, which is people with grace and a sense of personal justice who will confront authority to institute their own rulership. These are powerful ego forces that are reluctant to change.
Yeah, they become reluctant to change, and that becomes part of the confrontation. But moving up to this cross of rulership, this cross of rulership obviously will exist in two formats, or in all four formats, including the ones that aren't listed here, which are the 22 and the 47, making the whole cross of rulership. But this is the vocal part of rulership. It's very often the less finessed side of rulership. But nevertheless, we need this because the juxtaposition cross really sort of says it. If the right angle is the politicians that are kissing babies is a transmission of a message. It's the memory that it's time to campaign. I have to go get with the people even more. And it brings the 45 with it. And it's, the 26 can get a little pissy because it's the 45 that the tribe learns to love or not. I mean, more so. It's at 45 that gets the accolades in the sun, sort of more so than the 26. So either way, this rulership is about brute ego force. Now, we can have that in the old way, seven-centered way, which is not going to work, or we can have that in our current way, which is towards more communion and beauty, just like we read in the last cross, towards more communion and beauty. And when it sees it that way, the rulership becomes the rest of what the other gates demand, with grace and conceptualizing that comes up with realizations, realizing what really needs to happen, part of consciousness in a sense. So the juxtaposition, the trickster, is just exactly as it said. I would also add, and the politician. But this is only a politician if it's totally in the mood, because it's going to be fixed on that. So if it's fixed on something else, it's exactly not the politician. And then this confrontation. Oh, this is good. This doesn't have to be standing out in the street and put your dukes up, but it can be. This is a fiery ego gate. 26 is the fieriest of the ego gates. We could say 51 is fiery because it just jumps off, but it's always waiting. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. You know what I mean? 26 is always biting at the chomp to be itself, and And the other gates in 40, 40 just likes to work or not. It's probably pretty much aloneness. And 21 is a little bit bitter and tense because it can't freaking always control everything. 26 is always rolling up its sleeves, trying to figure out how can it make the thing happen, will it to happen. So this confrontation, when they are themselves, is so potent because they will stand. These are the guys that stand. Well, don't do that. Come on, just keep yourself. Put your nose down. Go. No, nope. Or I'll do that, but it won't work. I'll try, but it won't work. That's what 26 is saying when they are themselves. If anything is out of alignment, this is a great cross of alignment. Even though that cross has a different name, the confrontation leads to the alignment. This movement is all about rulership on the top and on the bottom.
Cool. All right. So now we have the I Ching hexagrams with the sun in gate 26, which is the egoist, and it's mountain over heaven. And the title in the I Ching is Great Taming. And the image reads, heaven dwells in the center of the mountain, great taming. A noble one uses the many annals of ancient words and past deeds and builds up his character. Heaven, the creative force, dwells at the center of what it creates. The present contains the principle and energy that shaped it, and this is available in the store of memory and written words. A noble one goes into this mountain cave of treasures to read and absorb, cultivating his own quality of character and personal power.
That was well put. That was one that's pretty close to how one might describe certain things on this gate, as it relates to interpreting the I Ching. You got to love that. Mm-hmm. I love that dealing with the many words, as it kept saying, is part of the heaven and in the mountain. So basically, the weight of the mountain is part of this heaven here. And I also like to point out, last three, including this one, the yangest gate is also the sun gate, and the groundingest gate. So this section of the wheel in the quarter of mutation is saying, push forward. This is yang energy first. Push forward. This is yang energy. This is all happening. So this is 4 gates right in a row now. I forget if it's 4, but I know it's at least 3. That's sort of that way. And so I guess that will be part of what to tell people to expect during this cross. Push forward because you want to. See what happens with that and watch how you can sort of dial it back so that you can be the humble leader is the best leader, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. They are outspoken when they need to be, but there's a certain humility, a humbleness that they aren't really humbability.
That's it.
That's it. That where a good rulership cross knows it's no better than the people they're with. That's mm-hmm. what I'm trying to refer to. So, no, I like this. I like the way they described it.
Fantastic. So then for the Earth in gate 45, which is rulership, it is lake over earth, and the hexagram title is gathering. And then the image reads, lake higher than the earth, gathering. A noble one sets aside weapons and tools and warns against the unexpected. The reservoir has high earth banks, its water level higher than your home. You can grow more crops, but if it is flooded, you would lose everything. Poised between intensity and overload, with so much invested in one place, the noble one takes special care. Inwardly, she is quietly resourceful and prepared for trouble. Outwardly, she communicates the need to stay watchful.
Translated into the rulership of 45 and the possessiveness, quietly prepared for, they possess the power of the 26 and the will of the ego, essentially, to be part of that. And then the earth part where you had just read, out in it, but like with a type of grace is sort of how that read, speaks to the rest of the cross, which has a gate 22 gate of grace in it. This 45 in its possession of its rulership serves such a high function. I can't even say, because, and a good ruler stands out. Good rulers stand out. In fact, there's so few that they stand out like a sore thumb. And good rulers, the people love them. The best ruler loves the people. So if you don't love that what you're possessing right now, if you don't love the people, I mean, like really, you just want them to have the best and show them a certain way and sort of make sure you're giving of the knowledge that promulgates into the future. Yeah, if that's not going on in your life, you're going to see it here. If you were born at this time and this is your cross, and regardless of that, it's in the sky now. So this is a week to basically see that here. Watch what is it that you think you're pissed that you don't possess, and how you think you're riled up about that, right? 26 and 45, and watch how it's not your choice. It doesn't matter. See how it fits in, and if it doesn't feel good, that's because you're right. It's not. It's like, think how simple that is. Hey, does it feel good? If it doesn't feel good, then you're right. If it feels good, then you're right. Doesn't it sound like we're talking to a 4-year-old in a way? Does it feel good? Yeah. Oh, then that's right. Yeah, great. That's true. And so it's just that's how I like to sort of look at what you just read.
Mm-hmm. So how do we tie this all together for our audience this week?
Oh, I think I sort of said it. Learn what you do and don't possess. Now's the time for you to actually be able to articulate that, even if it's only to yourself, is the thing. Get used to talking to yourself and what you articulate. This 45 wants an accounting of things. Trust me on that. It wants to know and it wants to feel secure and all that. And the ego the 26 wants to sort of bustle forward and make it happen. 26 is all, let's make it happen. Let's say the right things. Let's do the stuff. Allow your 26 to be very loud and witness when it's giving the message that is for the higher purpose, that is meets and grounds itself into the 45 that says um, gathering like and beneficial forces. I mean, I would add to that, all for the higher purpose and the higher good of what is needed in the tribe, and not for one's own personal aggrandizement, because that's what possession very often leads to. Witness this binary between, oh, I have, and so I'm great, or I have, and this gets put towards something great. Two totally different things, because put towards something great, to possess something is to know when to depossess it, unpossess it. And if you put it towards something great, you're giving part of it away. You're not just possessing it. It can't live alone is the thing. And 26 helps just keep it loud and vocal so that it's out front and on the front page of the newspaper every day, where the king belongs. The Queen of England is on the front page of the England's Gazette, at least once a week, right? So that's 26 work keeping it there, essentially, as it's supposed to be. And so on one end, fire up the resources and see where you don't like it and see where you do. Because if you like it, you're right. Once again, and see what must you possess as it relates to the will of people, the will of yourself, as it relates to the resources that are needed, as it relates to the goodwill of others, as it relates to communion, as it relates to feeling okay, and as it relates to a healthy tribe. So all these higher purpose things, not just I possess a car, I possess the keys to it, I possess a full tank of gas, a house, a bank account. No, those things can be part of it, but let them be a minor part of it. Look into the grander sense of what this possession is. And if you like it, you're right. And if you don't, you're right as well. And be honest with that, especially if it hurts. Be extra honest, or call it into one of us so we can talk it through with you.
It's interesting. Yeah, I was definitely like kind of considering the nature of like both of these energies being so tribal. And so I was thinking with like, okay, so grounding in the earth in 45, then it'd be like grounding ourselves in like, how are we sharing our resources for the good of the tribe, right? If you're using your resources in the best way, if you're sharing them in the best way, like doing that in a wise manner and kind of keeping account. If maybe you need to use your resources more wisely, right? Or maybe you're giving too much instead of or maybe you're not giving enough, right? And how you can be at that level of awareness with your role in the tribe. And then also like the 26, that's also like this tribal energy, right? And how are you communicating about the continuity of your tribe, right? How are you speaking of that tribal memory? How are you, and this tribe can be, it can be your family, it can be your business, it can be peers, colleagues, whatever tribe is for you. But yeah, how are you using that data of tribal memory to benefit the continuity of your tribe, of your family, of your business, whatever it may be. And that was really kind of interesting to like really consider that like tribal supportive nature of the energy this week.
Absolutely. And since the 26 is the driving force of the sun in this week from these dates, watch out for, just learn that it's so much fun to have a freaking blustery ego willpower. This is the blusteriest of the gates.
Yeah.
Now, it may not connect to anything, so you may still be an open ego, but you're sort of not because you're in a world, most likely. And so just see what that starts to feel like, but don't get used to it because it's going to pass. But it's there for you to, for your genome and yourself and your way to remember the essence of it. And then watch where you turn into a tool.
Yeah, right. Because the 26, right? It's also that trickster energy and it's that like used car salesman energy, right? So it's just like, hey, there's some will energy that you maybe you can push some stuff, but you know, trying to always align with a high level of your own integrity so you can live with yourself and your actions.
You'll see it if you are a used car salesman and you try and sell Granny the extra insurance policy she doesn't need, you know, because you were tricky about what you said. So just watch for the higher good and the lower good, the old way versus the new way, essentially. Hopefully we do. I think we did a show on that, or one day we will, right? The old way versus the new way.
That's an upcoming one that you're going to
Oh,
do.
that's right. Awesome. So yeah, that's what I think people should expect. And anything you want to add on to that, Miss Moni?
No, I think just, yeah, play around with it, observe it, witness it, you know, let us know in the comments below. Do you have these energies in your chart always? Are you feeling the transits coming in? Are you seeing how they're affecting you and others and people around you? Let us know. And, you know, we'll see you next week with the next neutrino weather, the next transit weather that will be upon us.
Good deal. Much love, Moni. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Love you.